Some say there are lives after death, and when we die, the souls are detached from the bodies and enter into another dimension that is capable of traveling in time. An individual from Asia has experienced more than anyone could imagine, witnessing events such as the birth of the universe, Noah's Ark, the Great Flood, Atlantis, and ancient civilizations. He has unveiled numerous unsolved mysteries yet to be deciphered by humankind, and even journeying through time to witness the future destruction of mankind. This is a true story of Tsuruhiko Kiuchi, a Japanese man who experienced death 3 times and returned to share his astounding discoveries with the world. Tsuruhiko Kiuchi, a Japanese comet hunter and writer, was born in Nagano, Japan in 1954. His passion for astronomy began in his childhood and led him to make exceptional accomplishments in comet hunting. Throughout his life, he has discovered 4 comets. While finding 4 comets may not seem impressive, many astronomers never discover a single comet in their entire careers. Comets, unlike the easily visible stars, are enigmatic, fast-moving objects that fleetingly reflect light when close to specific stars. Detecting them requires skill, patience, and suitable conditions. Nonetheless, Kiuchi has found 4 comets, gaining acclaim in the astronomical field. In 1992, he almost won a Nobel Prize for discovering the Swift-Tuttle comet. To honor his achievements, an asteroid discovered on the 15th of February 1990 was named after him, 5481 Kiuchi. Kiuchi's life has not been filled with struggles, but he has gone through 3 near-death experiences caused by an uncommon illness. Being an atheist, he did not possess any religious beliefs or accept the idea of an afterlife until he encountered a near-death experience. In 1977, when Kiuchi was 22, he underwent his first near-death experience. He suffered intense abdominal pain and was diagnosed with a rare condition called superior mesenteric artery syndrome. He was quickly taken to the hospital, where, despite resuscitation attempts, he was declared dead. Miraculously, Kiuchi revived 30 minutes later. Upon regaining consciousness, Kiuchi shared his extraordinary experiences. Initially, he found himself in a pitch-black location with a faint light in the distance. He approached the light and realized it was the entrance to a cave. Stepping outside, he came across a dark grassland. Moving further in, he saw another light and walked toward it. Oddly, Kiuchi experienced the full sensation of having a physical body. As he strolled barefoot on the grassland, he could clearly feel the soft earth and grass beneath his feet. As he reached the light, he encountered a vast river. Kiuchi believed it might be the Sanzu-no-kawa, a mythological river in Japanese Buddhist tradition which souls of the deceased must cross to reach the afterlife. A boat was positioned near the riverbank. Kiuchi intuitively got on board, even though there was no paddle. He used his hands to propel the boat through the water, ultimately exhausting himself and collapsing when he arrived at the opposite shore. Several strangers approached Kiuchi. A woman in a morning dress stepped forward and asked,
"Tsuruhiko, why are you here?"
Kiuchi could not answer because he did not know why and how he ended up in this place. Then she said,
"Come with me."
The woman led him to an enormous mountain, where Kiuchi recognized the other strangers as his late grandparents and a cousin who died during his junior high school years. After coming back to life, he learned that the woman was his paternal aunt, whom he had never met. She had died shortly after his birth. His aunt told him,
"We'll bring you to a wonderful place. Just follow us."
He accompanied her to the mountain summit, where he met a face that spoke to him, though he could not recall its words. When turned back and searched for his aunt who had guided him, she was nowhere to be found. At that moment, Kiuchi suddenly felt himself return to his body. He woke up and saw his parents right beside the bed. At that moment, he realized that his body could not move at all. He searched for the nurse call button, and his mother helped him press it. Even though he could not move, he still had the ability to see and hear, even perceiving his own heartbeat. Right after the nurse call button was pressed, he heard his heartbeat stop. Kiuchi consciously realized his heart has stopped beating and his breathing has ceased. His mother quickly left the bed, leaving his father alone in the room with him. Mysteriously, he regained the ability to move. He sat up and looked at his father, noticing his father was not looking at him. He followed his father's gaze and saw another version of himself lying on the same bed. He then understood that he existed only as a consciousness. His soul had separated from his physical body. He moved close to his dumbfounded father and tried to shout in his ear, but there was no response. He then entered his father's body. As if possessing it, wrote a message, "I am still alive," and exited his father's body. He had vision, hearing, and smell, allowing him to recognize various scents in the hospital. However, he lacked of senses of taste and touch, unable to touch others. His body could pass through objects and walls. Despite not having sense of touch, he found it incredibly remarkable that he could still feel the wind, temperature, and air. Kiuchi realized his mother was missing. In an instant, he stood next to her. That is when he remembered his brother. He found himself inside his brother's body as his brother hurriedly drove to the hospital. Kiuchi said, "I'm okay." Afterward, he teleported back to the hospital. Kiuchi discovered that he could inhabit another person's body and teleport. As an intellectual, this teleportation experience led him to consider that if teleportation were possible, and also time and space might not exist. Initially, he attempted to envision himself as a younger person and successfully teleported to that period in his life. This precise act of teleportation helped unravel a long-standing mystery from his childhood to adulthood. When Kiuchi was 6 years old, he and his sister were strolling along a rocky path beside a river. Suddenly, a shout echoed from the slope, "Watch out! Abunai!" As he glanced at his sister, he saw a large rock hurtling towards her head. In a panic, he pushed her back, but his actions caused her to slip down a rocky slope. Kiuchi returned to that very moment and searched for the person who had yelled the warning. He approached the spot where he believed the shout had originated. The situation was quickly reaching its climax. The rock was inches from striking his sister's head. In the next instant, Kiuchi yelled without even thinking, "Watch out!" The younger version of himself pushed his sister to safety. The voice had belonged to Kiuchi all along. At this moment, he understood that he had been his sister's savior all this time. Following this teleportation event, another idea came to his mind. I want to teleport into the future. His objective was to determine whether he was dead or alive. Consequently, he managed to teleport to the future successfully. In the next moment, Kiuchi found himself in a spacious tatami room, witnessing his future self as a middle-aged man, delivering a captivating lecture to a group of about 30 young people. The room had a traditional atmosphere, complete with a hanging scroll on the wall that appeared to be a floor plan. As he looked at the lecturer, he realized it was him, speaking passionately about astronomy and the importance of the global environment. At 22 years old, he had no experience as a teacher. Surprisingly, he discovered his future self to be a renowned astronomer and a university professor. Not only did he see this future, But he also glimpsed further ahead, witnessing himself in old age surrounded by a group of children. He joyfully taught these kids to use telescope to gaze at the stars. However, something deeply troubled him. The visions he saw were overlapping. Beneath the vivid scene, there was an alternate image of devastation and wreckage. From his perspective, this could indicate that the future was uncertain. In order to confirm the reality of time travel, he came up with a plan. He thought, if I travel to the past and leave some evidence that can last until the present, and when I look for it now, wouldn't that prove I truly traveled back in time? With that thought, he ventured back 500 years into the past. Just by thinking about it, he suddenly found himself standing in front of the temple. He then possessed someone and made that person write his name, Tsuru, on one of the temple pillars using charcoal. After Kiuchi woke up from his journey and regained his health, he decided to actually visit the temple. And astonishingly, he discovered his name, Tsuru, on the same pillar, which he had written himself in the journey. While the writing had become faint over time, a book preserved in the temple documented that around 500 years ago, a word Tsuru had mysteriously appeared on one of their temple pillars overnight. Back then, people considered it a divine prophecy bestowed upon the clergy by a higher power. Yet its meaning remained unsolved. July 22, 2009, China. There was a total solar eclipse, the longest of the 21st century, lasting up to 6 minutes and 39 seconds. Shanghai was one of the prime observation points for this event. Unsurprisingly, 55-year-old Kiuchi would not miss such a fantastic opportunity to indulge in his passion for astronomy. He arrived in China early and did some sightseeing as well. While visiting Huangshan, Kiuchi suddenly started vomiting blood and was urgently taken to the hospital. And yes, he died once more, but it was not long before he revived. By this point, Kiuchi had become quite familiar with the experience of dying. Wasting no time after his death, he decided to take a look at the legendary flood. So he traveled back 15,000 years into the past. As he gazed upon the earth, he noticed it was entirely covered in water. Then he spotted Noah's Ark, and to his surprise, it did not resemble the biblical description. Instead, it was a cigar-shaped vessel, unlike the traditional representation. During his observations, Kiuchi even entered the body of a ship crew and sneaked into the Ark. What he saw was something indescribable, as it was simply not the technology of the modern world. But what caught his attention was that there was not just one Ark. There were dozens of them, all looking identical. He was convinced that these arks were not the product of ancient humans, but rather the creation of a highly advanced civilization. Intrigued by the scene, he could not help but wonder about the cause of the Great Flood. So he continued his time-traveling journey, seeking to uncover the origins of this catastrophic event. He found out that the Great Flood started when a comet came frighteningly close to Earth. Comets are mainly composed of ice, and because of the enormous gravitational pull of the Earth, the ice on the comet broke apart and fell into Earth's atmosphere. It turned into rain, and eventually led to the planet's sea level rising more than 2,000 meters. Before this flood, he saw an advanced civilization existed on Earth, the legendary Atlantis. The mythical Atlanteans were impressively tall, standing between 3 to 4 meters in height. The civilization resided at an elevation of 2,000 meters below what we now recognize as the sea level. He also saw dinosaurs. At that time, dinosaurs were not terrifying, carnivorous, ferocious creatures and dominant rulers of Earth that we imagine. Rather, they were more like horses or camels. The Atlanteans used dinosaurs as transportation, and they lived by the sea. In the face of this devastating flood, the Atlanteans, with their highly advanced civilization and cutting-edge technology, turned to their spaceships. As the waters continued to rise, they hurriedly boarded these magnificent vessels and fled to distant planets, like Venus, in search of a new place to call home. As the ice from the comet disintegrated, transforming into rain that deluged the Earth, only the comet's nucleus remained. It began to orbit our planet, and to Kiuchi's astonishment, this colossal comet was, in fact, the Moon. The waters covering Earth now were a blend of ancient Earth water and water from the Moon. Intriguingly, the sea level during that era was 2 kilometers lower than it is today, and the seawater had extraordinary properties. It was capable of not only sustaining life, but also giving birth to it. In the tales of the past, the Atlanteans were said to live for several hundred years, with some accounts claiming lifespans of over 800 years. Their incredible longevity allowed them to gather vast amounts of knowledge and wisdom per lifespan, which could explain why the Atlantis civilization was so advanced. Interestingly, even the Bible mentions ancient people living for hundreds of years. But some say, after the Earth's waters became polluted with of the Moon, the Atlanteans left on Earth experienced a decrease in their lifespan. Their height was reduced to less than 2 meters tall. And that is, in fact, us. At this point, Kiuchi wondered if humanity's long lifespans, as mentioned in the first book of the Bible, were indeed accurate. With that in mind, he delved even deeper into the past, eager to uncover the answer to the dawn of the universe. He embarked on an astonishing adventure, journeying back to the very beginning. The Genesis. Kiuchi initially believed the universe began with a Big Bang, but his journey into the past revealed a different story. Instead of the expected dense, hot singularity from 13.8 billion years ago, he saw a universe without matter, and it was not a Big Bang. What existed before the universe began was an immense body of consciousness without any physical substance. Kiuchi believes that human consciousness comes from this grand consciousness, and that people are independent individuals when they are alive. When the human soul leaves the body, it remains an individual for a period of time. After some time, it will be absorbed back to this original consciousness as a whole. That is to say, we came from the same consciousness and will eventually return to the same consciousness. Kiuchi also saw that the individual consciousness of people existed in the cells. He said that the cells may be the conduits connecting the huge conscious body, and the brain does not produce consciousness. The brain just momentarily stores, processes, and calculates the information provided by the cells and then issues instructions to various parts of the body. Later, Kiuchi also understood what hell was. We know that when a person hurts others, it brings pain to others. When he died, when his consciousness was integrated into the grand consciousness, the pain he caused to others in the past would wrap his own soul, and re-experiencing the event himself. This process can be said to be very painful, and this could be known as hell. As Kiuchi observed the origins of the universe, he witnessed humanity's devastation multiple times. According to his accounts, humans have endured 3 significant cataclysms. The first of these was the Great Flood, which occurred roughly 15,000 years ago. The second catastrophe happened about 12,000 years ago. Following the devastation of the first event, humans built the Mesopotamian civilization from the ashes. However, unchecked human desires led to clan rivalries for land, ultimately transforming fertile ground into a desert and causing the civilization's decline. The third collapse came with the fall of Egyptian civilization. As humans evolved from primitive life, each village developed its own unique religion. These differing beliefs spurred humans to kill one another in the name of their faith, culminating in Alexander the Great's conquest of Egypt and the subsequent disintegration of the once mighty civilization. So, what did Kiuchi see in the current world? He also foresaw a third world war in the future, with Europe as the battleground, the Middle East's oil reserves running dry, and the use of nuclear weapons. Would there be a fourth destruction of humanity? Can we, as humans, avoid this impending catastrophe? As we consider the incredible experiences and insights shared by Tsuruhiko Kiuchi, a number of fascinating questions come to mind. Some say that near-death experiences could offer a peek into another world or reality. But does this mean that Kiuchi's experience is the same for all of us? Could the past he witnessed be real? Or is there a multiverse where everyone's past and future are unique? If souls can travel through time, maybe we can go back to our younger selves, saving ourselves from danger or giving the advice needed for success. In Buddhism, the belief in reincarnation suggests that each time we die, we have a short chance to travel in time and help our past selves. In monotheistic traditions, similar ideas of spiritual growth and change exist, revealing the possibility of a deep connection between these viewpoints. Some say that the world might be moving toward a third world war, with conflicts happening in Europe, the running out of oil in the Middle East, and the use of nuclear weapons. Will humanity face the fourth destruction? Or can we avoid this seemingly unavoidable fate? As we think about these mysteries and try to untangle the web of human existence, one cannot help but wonder what other surprises and discoveries are waiting for us. Could Kiuchi's experiences offer a glimpse into a world of endless possibilities and spiritual connections? In the end, some say that the answers to these questions might be hidden within our own minds, waiting to be explored and understood.